What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Touchdown with Doug Smith. And man, we got an action-packed episode coming soon. Today, we're going to take and talk about NFL training camp and the quarterback battles that are going to take and be happening. We got a few names that probably take and ring a bell. We're going to talk about Sam Howell versus Jacoby Brissett, Trey Lance versus Sam Darnold, Mike White versus Skylar Thompson, backup quarterback in Miami, because hey, two are probably going to get banged up this year again. Bailey Zappe versus Mac Jones, and also there's not two but three quarterbacks who could potentially start this year for Week 1 for the Titans. So we're going to get into it today. I'm going to go ahead and play our introduction. As soon as that's done, we're going to come back and I'm going to introduce our very special guest. We'll see you guys in just a few seconds. Okay, stay tuned.
Touchdown with Doug Smith, celebrate, that's a new move. Heisman, 2 views, catch him on YouTube. NFL coverage, interviews, new news, who win, who lose, comedy, you choose. It's not about moolah, the QB's like Tua is missing in action. No L's on my shooter, play it like Marino, it's a gamble like casino. Hungry for it, but we still gon' try to feed the beef. Rivalries will lead the conference, Cowboys of the Eagles. Will Belichick be a threat, better check. Tomlin on deck, much respect to the vet. What you expect? Gotta tune in for the rest. Make sure to sub, like, check. At the best, bad boy, the sports podcast. For the threat across the north, east, south, in the west. Sitting back clueless, time to tune in. Now another sports center, it's a movement.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Touchdown with Doug Smith. If you're new to the channel, man, this is the touchdown, man. Every episode's a touchdown, man. But today, man, we got a very special guest. Now, you know the show for being everything from sports debates to NFL pre-draft interviews. But, man, we got training camp just a few days away. We're going to get into it. But before I do that, I not only got my co-host, Adrian Soup Campbell. How you doing today, man?
Man, I'm good. I'm excited to talk some ball. I'm gonna be even more excited when we're actually in these camps, brother. It's dry out here on this TV. I need something to watch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man. It's so dry. It's going to catch fire, man. It's coming. And I got a very special guest. Now, just right next to me is Marcus, coming out of GOAT Talk with Marcus. Now, Marcus has been doing this for years. I would consider him, even though he's a young man, he's an OG in this podcast game, knows the game of football very well. Marcus, man, how you doing today, man?
First of all, I appreciate the flowers. Second of all, you told me the other day when you were on my show that my intro was pretty fire. That was a pretty good intro right there. That was great. Heavy. That was a great intro. It's a pleasure to be here, man, for the first time. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, man. Shout out to Ill Sense Birth and Waylay Creations for the production and the song and the lyrics, man. It just gel together like peanut butter and jelly, man. Shout out to those guys. Marcus, man, tell us before we start getting into the training camp stuff, tell the folks where they could find you, and also tell us a little bit about your show as well.
I'm proud to say that for the past couple months, I've been myself and the show Go Talk with Marcus has been a part of the mighty Give Us a Shot network over there on YouTube and Facebook. So go ahead and subscribe over there. Home to a lot of great talent. JT and the Don of the JT and Don All Sports Podcast.
JT,
Bert and Jerma, let's talk about sports. Mike and Corey, The Divide, live on Fox Sports The Gambler, and of course the fellas over there at the High Spot Podcast. I have to do this because I've been super excited about this and I can't wait to share. This Friday is a very special episode of Go Talk to Marcus. I've got a super, super important announcement that I'm going to be sharing live on YouTube at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with my guy Martin Sori. So please tune in because that's going to be a great show with a major announcement. But it's like I said, it's good to be here, man. It's good to be here.
Yes, sir, man. I'm excited, man. I am excited, man. And guys, ladies and gentlemen, co-cats and kittens, go down below in the description of this video. I put a social. I think I got your Instagram and I got your YouTube channel on there where people can plug in and follow your content. Now, folks, the reason you clicked on the thumbnail, we're going to talk about some camp battles today, man. I am so excited. Like, y'all, Madden come out next month. We're supposed to get NCAA college football. It's just football season, man. This is great. This is the next best thing next to the Super Bowl and the NFL draft. I'm so daggone excited. Let's kick off the episode with the Washington Commanders, and we're going to talk about Sam Howell. Sam Howell, who lit it up at the end of the year for the Washington Commanders versus Jacoby Brissett. Folks, D-Guy, talk to me. What are your thoughts on this battle? Who do you think wins? What's your thought? Adrian, I'm gonna go start with you, man. What do you think?
No, I'm gonna go ahead and pass the rock right to Marcus because you said Washington Commanders, and this brother gripped his whole head like his entire being hurt. Because you said Sam Howell lit it up at the season, and I felt it
at the end. At the end,
I just watched him. He was like, "Oh," he said, "Lit it up." Oh Lord Jesus, help him. Yeah. So Marcus, go ahead. You obviously feel some type of way about it. I'm gonna let you go.
Talk to us,
Bro,
man. Talk to us.
As a native Washingtonian, right? I was born and raised in DC. I'm proud to say I'm not a Commanders fan. As a native, the Washington Commanders are such a joke, bro. Like an absolute joke. There's not enough time in the day to kind of get into all that. I'll be super honest. And I don't like. I never say that. That's not true. I say this sometimes. I don't. First impressions are the most important. And I know you worked hard on this, Doug.
Yeah.
I don't care who the quarterback of the Washington Commanders is, bro. I don't. Like, I don't care if it's Sam Howell. I don't care. Like, they're gonna be garbage either way. Like they're not gonna be a good football team. They're not gonna win the like. I if there was a way that I could care less about who's gonna be lining up under center, I would. But there's not. Like, I just have no care. If I have to pick, I'm going to pick Jacoby Brissett because I do think he's the better quarterback. I understand Sam Howell is younger, and I understand that they drafted Sam Howell. I don't know where because, again, I don't care. But, like, they drafted Sam Howell, and he is the young guy, and they want to invest in him. But Jacoby Brissett is the proven NFL talent. And I think when it comes to who should be quarterback one, it should always be the proven NFL talent unless there's a reason to think definitively that Sam Howell deserves this job. Jacoby Brissett is a former starter. He obviously started the first half and some change of the season last season for the Cleveland Browns when Deshaun Watson was suspended.
Was the better quarterback for the Cleveland Browns.
And was the better quarterback as well. He did.
They were winning.
He started games in Indianapolis after Andrew Luck's shock retirement. So, like, he's been around the block more than a couple of times, and I think he is a good I think he's a good enough quarterback to be good enough for a not that great team in a division. Like, they're not competing for anything anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And so, like, here's the thing. Like, here's the thing, right? And it's actually I love PSP for saying this, but, like, unfortunately for the Commanders,
they'll never Caleb Williams or
they'll never like, even if Sam Howell is the quarterback, right? They'll never be able to lose enough games to be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. And that has a lot to do with what the Cardinals did on draft night this past draft a couple months ago. Also, there's still a lot of bad teams out there.
Yes.
That, like, the Commanders are bad, but there are other teams that are worse, which is hard to do. But that's just the reality of the situation, right? Like, I think the Cardinals are going to be one of those teams. I think the Texans are going to be one of those teams. Unfortunately for the Texans, the worse the Texans are, the better that is for the Cardinals as it pertains to them potentially getting Caleb Williams. We saw the rumors about them maybe trying to trade Kyler Murray to Atlanta on draft night. So I say all that to say, like, if you're the Commanders, don't get me wrong, there is enough talent on this team where they can win games. And so even if Sam Howell is the quarterback, like, when you have Terry McLaurin out there, when you've got Brian Robinson out there, who I'm a big fan of, like, when you have the talent on defense that they have, I know Chase Young is a big question mark. They didn't pick up his fifth-year option, and that's kind of confusing. But they still have Jonathan Allen. They still got Deron Payne. Like, they still have talent on that roster defensively and even offensively. Even if Sam Howell is your quarterback, and I think he's the inferior of the two, you're not going to lose enough games to be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. So, like, you might as well just start Jacoby Brissett, try to make the playoffs, because let's be honest, the NFC is the weaker conference. And once you get past the 49ers, once you get past the Cowboys, once you get past the Eagles, and if you want to throw the Vikings in there as well, you can throw the Vikings in there.
Not this year.
But I'm not. But if you wanted to, you could. Like, there's not a lot of teams that you can say legitimately have a spot already before the season starts locked up into the postseason. And so from that perspective, if I'm the Commanders, unless Sam Howell absolutely blows it out of the park, like blows out of the water, like hits a home run, knocks out of the park where he's undeniably should be the starter, there's no reason why Jacoby Brissett shouldn't be the starter come week one to me, because he's the better quarterback and he's the proven NFL talent.
So I'm vibing with your whole argument, right? Like, I agree with you. I think that we've seen what Jacoby Brissett is, and that's not to say that Jacoby Brissett is like some kind of superstar quarterback, right? Like, this is not a guy that's going to possibly go and take you to a Super Bowl. He's not going to lose you a game but he's probably not going to win you a game either. I think Sam Howell, I think he's going to be the de facto starter just for the simple fact that he is the young guy. He is the guy that they drafted. And we've kind of seen what Jacoby Brissett has done over the last few years. It hasn't been good, hasn't been bad, but it's kind of right there in the middle, right? So I think I think Sam Howell just gets the benefit because he's the young guy, because I think Ron Rivera, and you kind of saw his exit interviews at the end of the season. Rivera, I think he kind of knows like this is it for him. Like, and barring a significant run into the playoffs, like this is it for him. And even with a significant run into the playoffs, they just got a new ownership group. You have to believe that new ownership group is going to want to change up things significantly in that front office, possibly get a new general manager, get a new head coach, and then that regime is going to want their guy, right? I haven't forgot about Drake May. I haven't forgot about all the Caleb Williams. Once again, I don't think that the Commanders are going to be in a position where they'll be able to get either one of those guys. Chase Young, if you want to talk about possibly trading him, I think because he's been injured so long, right, and he just doesn't have enough production at the NFL level, I don't think they're going to get as large of a return as a lot of Commanders fans would want them to get for somebody like that. You're going to have to move off of Jonathan Allen. You're going to have to move off of a Montez Sweat or a Daron Payne, right? And even Daron Payne is not going to be valued the way that they paid him, because he's like, a top 4 interior defensive player in the league. That he's not going to have that kind of value on the open market, especially in a league right now where we're valuing edge rushers. So it's going to be Allen, it's going to be Montez Sweat that'll have most of your value just because Chase hasn't proven to be healthy. Now, if Chase comes in right now and he like balls out, goes crazy the first 8 weeks up to the trade deadline, you guys could probably move him for something significant. But other than that, I don't see them being in contention for one of these young quarterbacks that anybody's talking about right now. They may go ahead and hit on somebody that nobody's talking about, and he could turn into something, but I supremely doubt that. So I'm with you, Marcus. I'm with you in the fact that I don't really care who's under center for them, because the result is ultimately going to be the same. But if you ask me who I think is going to be under center, it's going to be Sam Howell.
Love it. I love it, man. Thank you guys for them hot takes there, man. Personally, my personal opinion, man, I probably a little more towards Marcus, man, but I'll add this in there. If in the event Jacoby Brissett gets in there, I could see Sam Howell coming, and I think Sam Howell should be able to sit a little bit. I think Jacoby Brissett, and when he was with the Dolphins, I really wasn't a fan. Then he came over to Cleveland. He kind of balled out, man. I really liked what he did, and I think he showed the league like, hey, I could play in this league, y'all. Dolphins O-line was just absolutely atrocious. But if in the event, Jacoby gets banged up, right, I could definitely see Sam Howell coming there balling out. But we'll see what happens, man. I think in our prediction video, Adrian, we gave him 8-9 wins or something like that.
I said they'd probably be under 500. I'm looking at their division, like they're finishing third in that division, right? I think it's pretty much
maybe
third, possibly last in the division.
Yeah. I can see that. Cool, man. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to our next camp battle, and we're gonna take it up to the West. Trey Lance versus Sam Darnold. Now we know that the guy who damn near took him to the Super Bowl, man, Brock Purdy, he got injured and he's currently rehabbing, so he is not going to be starting week 1, at least not what I see. It's looking like it's going to be Trey Lance or Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's a veteran, been there a little bit. Not too much success there. It's gonna be interesting. Who do you guys see taking and winning? I'm not saying for the whole year. I'm just talking for hey, probably the first 4 weeks of the season. Who do y'all have winning that battle?
Well, it depends on what route the 49ers are going to want to go, right? Are they going to want to try to make a case to maybe this is an opportunity to put Trey out there and showcase what he has to possibly get a better return on possibly moving him? I don't think that's the plan, because I think Kyle Shanahan and that staff firmly believe that they're in the Super Bowl window, so they ain't got time to bolster anybody and move him for assets. They're going to roll with Sam Darnold to start this thing, right? And that's not to say that Sam Darnold is a great quarterback, but I think anybody who pays attention to the NCAA, if you follow, I'm not saying you have to follow Brock Purdy, but the fact is, let's keep it 100. Most of all of us that watch football, didn't nobody know who the hell Brock Purdy was. coming into the league. You never heard of Brock Purdy until he started winning games in San Francisco. Don't pretend that you guys are Iowa State fans. I'm not hearing that. Like, I'm just not hearing that you guys followed his entire career. And even when he was, you're not going to sit there and try to tell me that that this was a guy that's going to be a Super Bowl champion quarterback at the NFL level. Nobody was ever making that argument for this kid in college. And I'm not trying to say that the kid is trash. I'm not saying that he's trash. I'm saying you got to show it. One, you got to show it consistency. Anybody can have a good year. Can you have a good 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? String that together, right? And then coming back from an arm injury, right, from his throwing arm, that's going to be something pretty significant to overcome. Good thing for Sam Darnold is Kyle Shanahan, whether you like him, hate him, right? I think we would all agree that it's a very quarterback-friendly system that doesn't ask their quarterbacks to really throw the ball deep down the field. You're throwing a lot of those intermediate interior crossing routes and slants, right, that are hitting that middle of the field. They've got a bunch of extra weapons in Debo that doubles as a running back or a gadget player. Christian McCaffrey is basically the same version of him, right? That's just run first. And then they have a couple targets on the outside, Brandon Jennings, Brandon Ayuk, all of those guys that have kind of developed nicely. They're not premier receivers, but they're better than a lot of other people on the roster. And the strength of that team is always going to be their defense. I know that they lost their DC, right, in D'Amico, right? They lost him to Houston to be the head coach. But Steve Wilkes isn't a pushover. And we talked about this in our prediction episodes. There's a whole thing where I think he should have got the opportunity in Carolina, but for whatever reason, right? Like, he's over there. I think the defense is going to be fine. Is Nick Bosa going to be healthy? Yeah, he's going to be healthy. Is Hufanga going to be healthy? Yeah. Is Fred Warner going to be healthy? Yeah. Like, these guys are loaded and they're ready to make a run. I think it's going to be Sam Darnold probably for the week 7. I think we know what Trey Lance is. I think everybody inside that 49ers building knows what it is. And it sounds like just kind of the talk out of camps and stuff like that, or just, the optional workouts. It sounds like Trey is already at number 3 on the depth chart as it is, right? So I think this is 100% his last season in the 49ers uniform, barring some crazy-ass injury history going on right now. Like, this is the last chance for him. He'll be moved by the deadline or he'll be gone next season.
Yeah, I love it. I love it, man. And then taking and moving on. So, Miami Dolphins. Let's talk some Dolphins talk, man. Hey, y'all know I'm a Dolphins fan. We cover the whole league, but, man, we're going to take it to Miami. The next battle I want to talk about is for the second string position. Now, these guys are not going to be starting. Tua has yet to have a season where he has been healthy all the way through. And the Dolphins did not super pour in a whole lot of money. They were kind of tight on the pockets, like that cheap uncle on Christmas, coming over to bring presents. He went to Dollar Tree. That was the Dolphins when it came to free agency and the draft. Not a whole lot of really good signings. And yeah, man, I'm expecting Tua to get banged up at some point in this season. I hope it's nothing compared to what it was last year. Hey, the guy does judo. That's great. He got a new helmet. That's great.
I've never seen somebody learn how to fall, like learn how to get tackled. So that way you don't hurt yourself when you get hit.
Man, I got to clown my team a little bit, man, for this. It was just so ridiculous, man. And we got the second string quarterback. And last year, Skylar Thompson, a 7th round pick. And again, take it for what you will. It's preseason, right? He led the NFL in yards and touchdowns. Again, it's preseason, but he did well with the opportunity he was given. And then for him to start a playoff game and lose by only a field goal to the Buffalo Bills, almost winning it for the Dolphins, was huge.
Oh, yeah. They put pressure on Buffalo. Like, Buffalo absolutely – Sean McDermott should be embarrassed that he even let it
third string
get that quick.
Quarterback. And then let's talk about Mike White. He balled out for maybe 2 to 3 games for the Jets, right? He got a little swagger. There's a camp out there who likes Mike White for the second string position, who could, again, there's going to be a time this year, it's probably statistically, and I hope this don't happen. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we win the Super Bowl. I hope none but great things. But let's keep it real. He's probably going to bang this year. Who do y'all got winning the second string position for the Miami Dolphins? Mike White or Skylar Thompson?
Marcus, please come and tell this man that nobody cares who the second string quarterback for the Dolphins is going to be.
Got to give an answer, man.
I don't care who the second string
quarterback. Thank you.
Not making the final word.
I think when you look at what Tua did, I think Tua showed us enough last season. So let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
Tua's season last season was an anomaly. I don't think we are ever going. I pray to God we never have a scenario where we see a quarterback get concussed 3 times in a single season. Like, 1 concussion, we've seen that.
Mm-hmm.
But by 2, you should be done for the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
If you are allowed the opportunity as an NFL player, regardless of the position, but especially quarterback, to have the chance to be concussed 3 times, there's something wrong with the training staff. And honestly, the entire Miami Dolphins training staff should have been fired. But that's neither here nor there. Whatever. I don't think we'll get to see that. I think what we'll see from Tua is if he gets hurt, it'll be one of those bang things, like maybe a knee or maybe an ankle, something that is manageable where he's out for a couple weeks. It won't be anything that is altering the trajectory of the season, in my opinion. What I will say, though, and I'm kind of hurt that I wasn't given an opportunity to chime in on the San Francisco 49ers.
Run it back on that after you finish this. I want to hear it.
Yeah.
I just feel like when you look at a guy like Tua, there's so many people that say Tua deserves a chance. But like Tua's had his chance. He had his chance last season, and he showed us what he could do last season when the team was built around him, and he did great things. He was an MVP candidate when he was healthy. The team was one of the best teams in football when he was healthy, had one of the best passing attacks in football when he was healthy. I think the tough thing now for Tua, though, isn't staying healthy. The tough thing for Tua is you have Tyreek Hill. You showed us what you can do. You have Jalen Waddle. You showed us what you could do, right? You have all this stuff offensively. They went out there and they got who? Raheem Mostert. They went out there like they did more to kind of bolster up this offense. They went out there. They got Jalen Ramsey. Like, this is a Dolphins team that has, as crazy as it sounds, has maybe cracked their Super Bowl window open for the first time in a very long time. But on the other side of things, you got Aaron Rodgers, who obviously is now in the New York Jets uniform out there with Green Bay Packers East. And of course, you have the 3rd best quarterback in football with Josh Allen. The Patriots, whatever, like, I think the Dolphins question, the QB battle for the Dolphins isn't Skylar Thompson versus Mike White. It's Tua versus Tua. Like, are we going to see the best possible version of Tua? Because the best possible version of Tua under center in Miami can win a championship in Miami this season. I think so. Like, and it doesn't take away from the fact that I think that that we all know that the Chiefs are the best team in football. It doesn't take away from the fact that me personally, I think that the biggest threat to the Chiefs are the Cincinnati Bengals, because Joe Burrow is the only quarterback in the NFL that has multiple wins over Pat Mahomes since Pat Mahomes has been who he has been, right? That doesn't take away from the fact that the Ravens are still the Ravens. Maybe it doesn't take away from the fact of Justin Herbert and the jump that we can see Trevor Lawrence continue to make. But when you look at what's happening right now in Miami on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively, the QB battle we should be concerned about as pertains to what this season is going to look like is Tua versus Tua. Because if Tua goes out there and plays the confident football that he played last season, we could see the Miami Dolphins walking into Vegas in February as your AFC champions, vying for a championship. If he's not the best, well, then we're talking about what are the Dolphins going to do with Tua, because they've invested so much. And Tyreek Hill inadvertently has put the Dolphins on the clock. Because he's already said he's not signing another NFL contract after his contract with the Dolphins expires. He's done with football. So you have, I don't know how many years are left on this deal, Doug. You're much more.
I think probably 2.
He's got 2 years left. So in reality, the Dolphins have 2 years to at least get there, right? Maybe if they get there, get a taste of it, Tyreek might change his mind. But if he doesn't, we're talking about 2 years max where this window is as open as it is. And they showed that they mean business because they went out there and they got Jalen Ramsey from the Rams this offseason. Like, it's super, super important that Tua shows up and be the confident Tua Tagovailoa that he was last season when he was healthy. So that's the QB battle I'm concerned about. It's Tua versus Tua. Because the best version of Tua could see the Miami Dolphins hoist up the Lombardi Trophy at the end of the season. So
I agree with that.
Love it.
I agree with that, Marcus. And maybe you'll hate this comparison, but this is just the thing that comes to my head, one, because I'm a Rams fan. I think Tua versus Tua was kind of, you look at it, 2017, 2018 Goff versus 2019 Goff, right? Like, Goff, nobody's saying that he's top 5 quarterback in the league, right? But we saw what he could do with the right pieces around him when everybody is healthy, and he had weapons galore. He had Todd Gurley's, Cooper Kupp's, Robert Woods. Everybody was firing on all cylinders, right? He was able to lift them to a Super Bowl on his level of quarterback play. But then the very next season, when stuff falls apart and he starts getting inside his own head, and we started seeing this with Tua post some of those concussions when he came back in and he shouldn't have been playing, you saw what happens when he gets inside his own head. He's just seeing ghosts and people that aren't there making bad decisions and bad throws and throwing it to the opposite team. So it 100% reminded me of what Jared Goff looked like. When he's cool and calm and collected in 2017, 2018, he's probably one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL at getting the ball down the field. But when he's really inside of his head, he's really upside down. And yeah, he's probably going to be your opponent's best friend because he's going to throw them more completions than he's throwing his own team at that point.
Yeah.
But I did, Doug, before we move off of it,
Yeah.
Marcus, I didn't mean to pass the rock to the next thing. I did want to hear your San Francisco take. I'm very curious.
Let's bring it.
I might be the only Sam Darnold fan on the planet.
You might be the only remaining one, sure.
100%. I think so. I think if we're talking about Sam Darnold versus Trey Lance, Sam Darnold should be the starter.
100%.
I do not agree with this idea that because Trey Lance was drafted 3rd overall and they traded to get him that he should be the starter. Because here's the deal. No one told him to do that. No one held a gun to Kyle Shanahan's head and John Lynch's head and said, you have to draft Trey Lance. Nobody told them to do that. They made that decision and they have suffered because of it. I have never understood the thought process of let's force this guy out before he's ready. Trey Lance was never ready to be an NFL quarterback. He was never ready. He played a handful of games prior to even being eligible to be drafted. He played a handful of games before even walking up on the stage on draft night. And I understand what his ceiling is, but that's a massive risk to take with a super, super, super raw talent, right? And I'll try to put it in this perspective because I think this is the best way that I can do it, right? When you look at a guy like Trevor Lawrence, okay? Trevor Lawrence, from a physical standpoint, aside from maybe the mobility, but even still, from a physical standpoint, Trevor Lawrence embodied a lot of what Trey Lance is physically. He's got the arm, he's got it in here, kind of. Trevor Lawrence has it in here. Trey Lance kind of does. But the difference is when we saw all those graphics leading up to the draft, Trevor Lawrence was the most experienced quarterback in the draft by miles and miles and miles and miles. Take it a step further. Let's look at a guy like Justin Fields, who's more comparable in size, who's more comparable in ability. Justin Fields still had that experience. We saw him go out there and what was that? The semifinal game against LSU and play. Was it against LSU when he played with a broken rib or whatever? Like he showed that heart, he showed that toughness, and he was out there doing his. What did Trey Lance do to deserve being the 3rd overall quarterback drafted in that draft class? Nothing, aside from the fact that honestly, this is what I think. I think Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch succumbed to the noise.
Thank you.
There are a lot of ungrateful 49ers fans out there, and I've said it so many times over these past couple years. I am a Jimmy G fan. I'm a Jimmy G stan, if you want to put it that way. Maybe that's what I am. I think here's why I say that. There are people out there that think that wins are a QB stat. There's people out there that think that wins are not a QB stat. Here's what the people that think that wins are not a QB stat do. They hold Justin Herbert's 19-20 career record against Justin Herbert, but they don't give props to Jimmy G for the wins that he's had. Because he's never the reason why they won. It doesn't matter. Like, here's the deal. In the last 20 some odd years, 23 years since 2000, and let's just say 21, since the leagues were realigned to what they are now in 2002, there are 4 guys, 4 that have won a higher percentage of the games that they have played and started in than Jimmy G. Tom Brady, who is the GOAT, Peyton Manning, he's the sheriff, Pat Mahomes, who could be the GOAT when it's all said and done, and Lamar Jackson, who's a former MVP. That's it. All 4 of those guys are 2 of them are the best to ever do it. The other 2 could be on pace to be the best to ever do it. With one of them could be sitting at the mountains. Like, so it doesn't matter. Like, it's not Jimmy G's fault that the 49ers built a good team around him. That's what we're that's what we're supposed to do. You're supposed
100%.
to see a team build around their quarterback. And so I say all that to say the 49ers had a great thing going with Jimmy G. We're talking about a guy in Jimmy G who won 3 times as many games as he lost as a 49er. We're talking about a guy in Jimmy G that took them to, what was it, 2 NFC championship games and a Super Bowl in a 3-year span. And if it weren't for a very, very bad decision at the end of that game against the Rams, it would have been 2 championships or 2 Super Bowl appearances and 2 NFC championships in a 3-year span. And that 3rd year they missed was the COVID year when everybody was hurt and opted out. It's like that year doesn't even really count. Like that's what we're talking about. And so I understand what the upside could have been for Trey Lance, but I never understood why everyone, especially 49ers fans, was so quick to say, oh, well, Jimmy G can't get us there. Like, but he did though. Like we're talking about a guy in Jimmy G who made it to the Super Bowl when we're talking about got through my Packers twice to get there. We're talking about a guy who was playing and won and made it to the Super Bowl when Drew Brees was still in New Orleans, when they had a good defense and were actually competing and could have been in the running. We're talking about a team in Minnesota who was kind of ups and down, but we're still Minnesota. We're talking about a Dallas Cowboys team who I know they're the Cowboys, but still a phenomenal football team. We're talking about a team that had to that got there when the Bucks were kind of on the come. Like this is what we're talking about. And so I tell that to say, when you look at a guy like Trey Lance, if Trey Lance can't beat Sam Darnold, and I don't mean they give him the job because of where he was drafted. I mean, if he can't earn the job because he deserves it over Sam Darnold, he shouldn't be a 49er anymore. Because now he's a bust. Like now he's a bust. Because you drafted him 3rd overall. You traded all these picks away, and these picks turned out to be Bradley Chubb and Tyreek Hill and all these other, and Jalen Rames, I think, is now even a part of one of those picks that Miami got in exchange for that. Like, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a situation where the 49ers could have gone from being one of the most dangerous teams in the NFL, one of the most successful teams in the NFL, on the precipice of championship glory for the first time since the 90s, to a team that's going to be back where they were before John Harbaugh got there. Or was it Jim? Before Jim Harbaugh got there, which is a bunch of nothing. So I think Sam Darnold should be the starter.
100%.
I think he's proved it. I think he's earned it. I think despite what happened in New York, I think when you looked at what he did in Carolina, when he had a healthy running back and a healthy offensive line and players were around him and being good, he was 3-0 a couple years ago. And then, of course, lost that one game against the Cowboys on the road, and then everything fell apart. You look at last season, of all the quarterbacks that played last season for the Panthers, he won more games. He had a higher completer percentage. He passed for more yards, threw for more touchdowns, threw for less interceptions. Like, of the revolving door of quarterbacks that we saw step foot on the field last season for the Carolina Panthers, Sam Darnold was the best. You take him out of there and you put him into the perfect situation for a below average quarterback. Bro, all Sam Darnold has to do is make sure he's throwing it to a player that's wearing red.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Or, because sometimes they wear white or black, a gold helmet.
And he'll be on the best team that he's been on since forever.
Not even just the best team, Doug. We're talking about this man played for 2 of the most dysfunctional NFL organizations of the last decade, of the last 5 years especially. Like, it's not like he walked out of New York and then walked into something great over there in Carolina. Carolina is still trying to right the ship back.
Yeah,
I'll say this.
Oh, good.
I think Brock Purdy, when he gets healthy, I think they'll probably give him the job because I think he earned it from last season.
100%.
But let's say Sam, and let's use your analogy, Doug. Let's say we go through these first 4 weeks. And I don't have the 49ers schedule pulled up in front of me, but
it's very favorable. Let me tell you that.
Let's say we get to week 5 and the 49ers are 4-0. And it's not like a 4-0, like, and Sam's been playing bad or he's been playing okay or they've been winning. It's like, let's say Sam Darnold's been balling out there. Sam Darnold should not only deserve to keep the job, but there should be no conversation about Brock Purdy or Trey Lance the rest of the season.
And I don't think there will be, because I think what Kyle Shanahan showed you last year, right? Because Trey got healthy again by the time Brock Purdy was in, but Brock Purdy was rolling. And, Shanahan said, no, we're going to roll with the hot hand. So I think Shanahan is the type of coach that if they are rolling, and by the way, I don't think Purdy's going to be available until probably week 6 or 7. If they're rolling, and let's just for shits and giggles, let's say that they're 6-1 by week 7, and that's when Purdy's coming back. And it hasn't been on the back of the defense. It's been with good to excellent quarterback play from Sam Darnold, right? I don't think Shanahan says, well, we kind of told him that he was going to be the starter, so I'm going to go ahead and make him the starter. For what? You have no obligation to Brock Purdy. You're paying him next to nothing. You're also paying Sam Darnold next to nothing. Like, they are playing with house money at the quarterback position in San Francisco. You don't owe any of these kids anything. You haven't paid them anything. There's nothing that you need to see from any of them.
Let me put it to you this way as well. So there's certain games on the schedule that matter. There's some that don't matter, obviously. I think the best possible bye weeks to have now with the 17-game schedule is week 9, because you've played 8 games, you get a break, and you play 8 more. Guess when their bye is? Week 9. In the first 8 games of the season, they have 1, 2, 3, 4. They have 5 games against playoff teams. They have to go, or no, they have 4 games against playoff teams. They have to host the Giants. They host Dallas. They go to Minnesota. They host Cincinnati. I'll throw the Rams in there as well, because that's a tough team. It's a divisional team. It's on the road.
But they've owned them in the regular season.
Exactly, which is my point. If in those 5 games, Sam Darnold plays well, and I don't just mean 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers.
We talking 360.
I'm talking
touchdowns.
If he's going over 250, maybe even 300 yards, and we're talking about a 3 or 4 touchdown game, and he's completing at least 60% of his passes, which is what he's done for his career. If he does that for those 5 games, that gives you enough to know he can do that for the rest of the season. If Sam Darnold's projections at the end of the season are over 3,500, at least 20 touchdowns, less than 12 picks, and at least 60% completion, the San Francisco 49ers can go to the Super Bowl with Sam Darnold as the starting quarterback.
And then I can go to the bathroom because I'm going to be sick.
I'll be sick too as a Packers fan. But like that's the potential. I can't say that for Trey Lance because I haven't seen Trey Lance give me anything. I have nothing over Trey Lance's career to give me any type of, like, if we see that, like, we've seen stretches in Sam's career. When you look at the schedule, as you mentioned, they have a lot of favorable games. Like, I'm looking at, if I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the schedule because I have it pulled up, and let's take the divisional games out of it. How many teams definitively are better than the San Francisco 49ers that they play? Pittsburgh? No. And I love Mike Tomlin. The Giants? No. The Cardinals? Of course not. The Browns? No. Maybe if Deshaun Watson is who he's supposed to be, but even then, I would say probably not.
I think the roster on the Niners more complete.
100%. The Vikings? They're not. No. The Bengals are better than the 49ers.
Yes.
The Jaguars?
No.
Maybe, but not probably yet. Not. The Bucs?
2 years off.
No. The Eagles are. The Cardinals, again, like I said, we already know that. The Ravens? I can't say so. I personally cannot say so.
I'm going to say no.
This many favorable matchups from an offensive to defensive standpoint. It doesn't even matter if you have the best quarterback, like the better quarterback, as long as the matchups are winning where they're supposed to win. As long as they have the favorable matchup in the trenches, which more often than not, unless they're playing the Eagles, they will, because they've got the second best line offensively in the league.
Yeah.
Unless they're talking about playing, again, the Eagles offensively or the Bengals offensively, their defense can have their way with just about any other offense they're playing. Yeah. There's no reason to think that the San Francisco 49ers can't have a successful season with Sam Darnold as quarterback. I do not want to see Trey Lance as the starter unless he's absolutely earned it or unless Sam Darnold's hurt and Brock Purdy's not ready yet.
Me personally,
I should only see Trey Lance starting if Sam Darnold's just really, really bad and it's week 3.
Well, then in that case, if Sam Darnold's really, really bad, keep him in. And if he's really, really good, bring Trey Lance in because I want them to fail. Because I want not him to fail, them to fail. But sure. Doug, I'm sorry. I just wanted. I had to hear what Marcus had to say about that, and I know that's a point of contention, even amongst, like, I see the 49ers fans on Twitter and stuff like that. There's still some debate about it. No, you're fine. I think there's a lot of conversation. I think 49ers fans are still kind of curious. Like,
I want to say something too. I want to add is that draft. People now at the time, people were like, "Wow, like Carson Wentz came from this 1AA school." But
he didn't have dang near the accolades that Carson did.
Exactly. Like, he had some, like, good stats. He had some good games. But man, like, they're not the same quarterback. You know what I mean? At least Carson Wentz got to, like, experience some success in the NFL. He got a Super Bowl ring, and obviously things didn't pan out so hot for him.
That's not.
I think
it was very brief. It was very brief. I'm not a Carson
Wentz. But I think that Carson Wentz point is a great one to make. I think that's what so many people kind of allowed themselves to be trapped into was because we saw Carson Wentz rise to the success that he did, and they came from the same school. But let's remember, Carson Wentz was a completely different quarterback coming out of college. He had the experience. He had the gains
the
under his belt.
He had two D2
he had championships under his belt as well from that same school. And so when you look at it from that perspective, it's like, I understand. First of all, the player comp to Carson Wentz was super lazy because they went to the same school.
Yeah.
That's really all it was. They went to the exact same school. It was a super lazy player comp. But even still, Carson Wentz, again, he had the experience. He had the championship caliber. I know it's D2, but he had that championship experience. And also, he was put in a better situation. It's not like Carson Wentz was drafted to the Eagles, and the Eagles are coming off a stretch of success the way that the 49ers are. The Eagles were picking second in the draft for a reason.
Yes.
They sucked.
And Marcus, can we keep it a stack? And maybe I'm just ignorant. Maybe I'm an idiot, and everybody's going to tell me how much of an idiot I am in the comments. But like, how many of y'all really knew who Trey Lance was before they started making these Carson Wentz comparisons? Like, I had never even heard it. It felt like he appeared overnight, and the analysts and the media just started talking about. I was like, wait, where did this guy come from? And to your point, guys, I think they're looking at Carson Wentz, but the person that they should have been looking at for a comparison, and I'm not talking about his talent, just as a proven case study in the NFL. Instead of pointing and looking at Carson Wentz, they should have been looking at Daniel Jones, who started 12 games in his college career and was way overdrafted and is now completely overpaid. And God knows what he's going to look like without Saquon in that backfield. Like, that's what they should have looked at and said, here is a case of a guy who clearly has some talent, right? But hasn't had near the experience that he needs to be competitive in this league. I think that was the case study that they should have looked at. Nobody bothered to ever stop and ask the question. I think the media kind of got everybody hooping and hollering and beat up into a frenzy. And I think you're right, Marcus. I think they heard the chirping and they're like, well, we got to go. And it was like, what is it like that? You ever seen that Family Guy episode where Peter's
I'm
in there
a Family
with
Guy fanatic, so absolutely I have.
With the, where the salesman was like, hey, we'll either give you this boat or you can have what's in the box.
Yeah.
And Lois is like, we'll just take the boat. And Peter's like, hold on, Lois.
What's in that box?
We know that's a boat.
What's in that box?
What could be in the box? It could even be a boat. And I think that's exactly what happened with Trey Lance. Is they said they're like, I think the talk was Mac Jones at the time. Mac Jones versus Trey Lance is who they are. It's like, Mac Jones, we know what it's going to get. But then they're like, but yeah, what's in the box? We see the potential of Trey Lance. It could even be Mac Jones. Just take Mac Jones.
Yeah.
And I think they had convinced themselves that because, again, from a physical standpoint, he appeared to be better. And also because of the lack of transferability of Alabama quarterbacks, it seemed, because let's remember, it's been a very, very, very long time.
Can somebody name the Alabama quarterback that was successful in the NFL?
It's been almost, if not half a century or 3/4 of a century, about that time since the last time an Alabama quarterback has won a playoff game.
Yeah, that's
how long it's been.
That's what I'm saying.
That's how long it's been. And so I think they looked at that, and they also looked at, again, he's got the better arm. He's more mobile. In this world where you have a Josh Allen and you've got your Pat Mahomes and you have your Kyler Murrays who were still pretty hot at the time, and you have your Lamar Jackson's like, oh, that guy's mobile.
Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson is going to get a lot of people overdrafted where they shouldn't be.
It will be. Look no further than Zach Wilson.
Guys, I got a name. It's been a minute. I have a couple names. Joe Namath. Bart Starr. Legendary.
So we have two quarterbacks that haven't played in the last.
Yeah, so three. Hold on.
Literally before I was conceived. Yeah, literally.
I think Ken Stabler was the last. Was the most recent one. I think
the last one. Hold on. Let me see if there's any more. No, that's it, y'all.
What year was that Ken Stabler won his playoff game?
Oh, Ken Stabler, man. Let me pull it up here. Ken Stabler was on. Where'd you go? 1966 to 1977.
Yeah. My pops was like barely. He wasn't even he was barely getting out of diapers. Okay,
but I was 6.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like this is barely. Doug, I know we got one more camp battle. I want to talk about that camp battle, but sports PSP. I saw your question come through. I do want to talk about it because it's funny because I was just talking to my brother Marshall about that very, very topic. So I do want to talk about this. What's going to happen? What I think is going to happen with Kyler
Professional
Murray.
gamer.
No, because
CFL.
Nah. We'll talk about that. But let's talk about your last battle, and then I because I do want to spend some time on what I think could potentially happen with Kyler Murray, because I'm actually interested to hear, one, does Marcus agree with me, or does he have his own conspiracy theory about what he thinks is going to happen with that? So it's on you, man. Let's do this last training camp, and then let's circle back for Kyler.
All right, so next training camp battle that we're going to talk about, and then we'll cap this off here to our last topic. Bailey Zappe, no, I'm butchering his name, but he balled out the little bit he got to play last year, versus Mac Jones. Now, Mac Jones, he's already been shopped around. There's definitely some displeasure. Who do y'all see winning that camp battle going into
Mac Jones? Mac Jones, and it's not particularly close. I know Bailey Zappe, like, he came in and he played well, but like, we're not going to sit here and pretend that there wasn't a whole bunch of dysfunction, and still isn't some dysfunction up there in New England. Bill Belichick, for all of his historical accolades and as good of a coach as he is, because I'm not gonna start here with the Bill Belichick slander that he's not a good coach, but remember, he's from a different era, like literally from a different era, and he had the greatest quarterback of all time, and people say, oh, well, that didn't matter. No, it mattered a lot, especially when you're a defensive head coach, and what you know and what you specialize in is defense. I think when you can go back to your team and you could tell them with a bold face that this guy, who is a failed head coach, a fired head coach, and a okay defensive coordinator, that he's going to be the OC, and you go look every one of your offensive players in the face and tell them, like, this is who you guys are going to have to take direction from, I think everybody in that locker room on that side of the ball had an issue with that. So I think it started long before that, because the Mac Jones that we had seen the year prior, right, with Brian Daboll, I think there was some promise there. There was some promise there. Now, once again, I'm not going to jump the gun and say that he's the top 10 quarterback or that he was going to be the second coming. I'm not willing to say that, but I would like to believe that his potential is within the top 15. That's where he would have been. I think, getting an actual OC in there, right, that has worked with Mac before, is familiar with the Alabama system that Saban was running, I think it's going to be a lot more friendly towards him this year. I think Mac has a good chance to get back on that trajectory that he was initially on. And I think it should be a no-brainer that he's the quarterback for this defunct franchise at this point. No disrespect to what New England's done, right? They've had one of the most impressive dynasties of my lifetime. 6 championships within the span of 20 years is very impressive. I doubt we'll see anything like that ever again. But it's going to be Mac Jones. It should be Mac Jones. I don't think him or Bailey Zappe is there in 2 years, but that's neither here nor there.
Now, Marcus, do you have any scenario where Bailey Zappe takes and comes in and starts this year?
No, but to answer the other sports PSP question, Bill Belichick is absolutely on the hot seat, and I'll have no problem saying that. And let's talk about why.
Be honest. Let's go.
Bill Belichick is a six-time
Super Bowl champion
as a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Belichick has been the head coach for the New England Patriots without Tom Brady, or post Tom Brady, rather, for what are we talking about?
3-4 years now?
This is going to be the fourth season
year
now.
Mm-hmm.
He's been to the playoffs one time in that span. He's won 0 playoff games in that span. They have won the division 0 times in that span. So that's the head coaching part of it. Offense hasn't been great. It's been mediocre at best. Even in Mac Jones's Pro Bowl season 2 years ago when they went to the playoffs.
Also, weapons been trashed too.
Weapons have been trashed. So let's talk about weapons being trashed. Fellas, who's the GM for the Patriots?
Bill Belichick.
Oh, it's Bill Belichick. Oh, okay. And Bill Belichick hasn't had a good draft
since I've been alive.
Ever, because he's not a good GM. And he's only the GM because he's also the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And he's only the GM because he was given the opportunity to handpick his defensive players because, as you mentioned, he didn't have to worry about what's happening offensively because you got the GOAT under center.
Mhm.
So he has never had a good draft. That streak has continued these past 4 years. He's been without Tom Brady. They've been to the postseason one time. And hey, let's be completely honest. Not only did they make it to the postseason one time, like they got obliterated.
They got clapped for real.
They got walked off the field.
Mhm.
Like we're talking like they got no Vaseline, bro.
Mhm.
Like the Bills was in there, no Vaseline, just straight roughing it. Like
Mhm.
and it wasn't a pretty thing to see. And I know we wanted to give praise to Mac Jones and whoever I can't even think of his name. What was it? Is it N'Keal Harry? Is that who also had a somewhat decent game? The wide receiver that was making all the catches. Whoever it was doesn't take away from the fact that the defensive mastermind allowed what is probably the only perfect game
Mhm.
that we've seen a football team post
Mhm.
in the last 5 to 10 years. The only and when we say like they scored on every possession, bro. Not
will.
a punt, not a turnover. I don't know if Josh Allen had a perfect passer, but I would assume he did have a perfect passer rating. Like they got clapped and walked like dog walked off the field. And so when you look at it from that perspective, here's what we have to say. What we have to say is Bill Belichick is only still in New England because he's also the general manager.
Mhm.
Here's the deal. Not only is Bill Belichick on the hot seat as a head coach, he's on the hot seat as the GM.
Yep.
If he was anybody else that wasn't also the head coach, or if he was any other person in the NFL, he would not still be the general manager. And if he was anybody else that wasn't also the GM, he would not still be the head coach. But what Robert Kraft did, and what Patriots fans did, and what the NFL community as a whole did, is they gave Bill the benefit of the doubt, because what we thought would be super, super enticing is let's see who it really was. Was it Brady or was it Bill?
But
And
we
what
found
did
out real
really
quick.
happen? The second Brady left, he walked right down there to Tampa Bay. He walked right into a Super Bowl, and he led the Buccaneers to a Super Bowl and made them the first team ever to host and win the Super Bowl in their own stadium. That's what Tom Brady did in a year. And the year after, if it weren't for probably one of the worst collapses we've seen a Tom Brady team have in the postseason, we could probably be talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as back-to-back Super Bowl champions. And fellas, who was the last team to win back-to-back Super Bowl championships? It was the 03-04 Patriots.
Tom Brady.
Who was the quarterback on the 03-04 Patriots? Thomas Edward Patrick Brady. So, yes, Bill Belichick's on the hot seat. And he's not just on the hot seat as a coach. He's also on the hot seat as a GM. Here's the problem, though. And God bless his heart. Robert Kraft has way too much loyalty to Bill Belichick to fire Bill Belichick, the GM, or to fire Bill Belichick, the head coach. Like, I know there's issues behind the scenes, but he's not going to do it.
But here's the thing.
Let Bill retire. And when Bill retires, then we get a new era.
But my thing is, I don't think he's going to publicly fire Bill, because I don't think it's his desire to humiliate Bill in that way. But I do think there's going to be a closed door conversation where he comes and he says, Bill, listen, man, we had a great run, but you either need to retire or you need to step away from coaching, because I don't want to have to publicly fire you, but this can't continue. I think that's more likely to happen at the end of this season than a full out Bill Belichick is dismissed. I think that closed door conversation is going to happen.
Here's the problem, though. If you give Mac Jones his old OC, and this is why I hate when coaches get credit for certain things. This is why I think that wins are a quarterback stat. Because if you say that wins aren't a quarterback stat, then they got to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
They're not a wide receiver stat. Like, there's only two places this can go. Either wins are a quarterback stat or they're a coaching stat. And if wins are a coaching stat, and if the Patriots, let's say the Patriots benefit from the Jets and the Dolphins and the Bills tearing each other apart, and they somehow sneak into the second or third spot in the AFC East from all this hoopla that's going on at the top. We know that only the Jags are going to make it in the AFC South. And let's say things get kind of weird and somehow they have enough wins as some other team. Let's throw the Browns out there. Let's say for some way, somehow, the Patriots just have a solid season. They sneak into the playoffs with a wild card team with 9 wins. Guess who doesn't have a closed door conversation? Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick. Because guess what Bill Belichick rebuttal is? Well, Rob, I just got the team to the postseason. What do you want me to do? Like, so I that's the issue, is the Patriots deserve a fresh start. Like, the best thing they should have done, Like really, what they really should have done.
The other fans of the other 31 teams in the NFL would disagree because they've been tortured for the last 20-something years by the Patriots. They don't want them to have a fresh start. They want them to be mired in
absolutely. They deserve to suffer 100%. But like, what really should have happened is we should have saw the end of the Brady Belichick era together. Like, there should have been no more Brady and no more Bill at the same time. Is what should have happened. Because you're right, bro. Bill Belichick's still close, like it's like it's not 2023. Like he's coaching like we're still living in this world where like you don't need a certain type of quarterback and you don't need certain pieces. Mac Jones is the only quarterback in the NFL that doesn't have, and Jordan Love. That's because we just drafted one. But like, really, Mac Jones
is the only quarterback
in the
NFL.
Number one
receiver for New England right now?
Devontae Parker.
That's the problem. And I wasn't even going to go receiver. I was going to go tight end. Who's their tight end, bro?
What's the kid from San Diego all them years ago that was
Hooper?
The guy that
Henry?
Yes, thank you. The guy that was never healthy.
Hey, I love Double H. This ain't the place for him, bro. This is not the place for him. This is not the place for him to succeed. It's not. Like it's not. Like their O-line is not great. Their defense is mid. They have no receivers. Their tight end is average at best. And their running back is Ramondre Stevenson. No disrespect to Ramondre Stevenson, because I love Ramondre Stevenson. He won me my fantasy championship, one of my league last season. Here's the thing, though. It's Ramondre Stevenson, bro.
Oh, Jemo says it's Hunter Henry and Gesicki's over there now, is he not? Doug, your boy Gesicki is over in New England.
Damn it! Oh my gosh, we can have a whole episode about that traitor.
Well, listen, that dusty ass Gritty is not enough to help them.
Yeah, like Mike Gesicki gonna go out there one time in November when it's 3 below. He can be like, man, should have stayed in South Beach. That's gonna be the end. Like I Bill Belichick's in the hot seat as a coach and as a GM. This should be the last season.
And rightfully so.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. All right. Well, look, I think that's camp battles. Can we talk Kyler Murray for half a second? Because
Kyler Murray, man, let's bring him back, man. So what are your thoughts on, I guess the conversation is, what's the future for Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals? Do they tank it this year and go 1 win? What happens?
I'm not going to speak to their record. You guys got to go back and watch the prediction show if you want to talk about their record. But this is what I will say. I think if there is a team in this league that is very, very open to tanking for the number 1 overall pick and acquiring one said Caleb Williams, it is the Arizona Cardinals. Also, if there is a team that has historically demonstrated the propensity to jettison a first-round draft quarterback in favor of another first-round draft quarterback, it is also the Arizona Cardinals. A lot of you guys may not remember a quarterback by the name of Josh Rosen that was drafted within the top 10 picks of the first round, and
promised us even that he would make the other 10 teams, or 9 teams who didn't
pass on him, regret on
pay for that. Yeah, where you at, bro?
I literally couldn't tell you where he's rostered right now, if he is rostered somewhere. And so
I knew he was in Atlanta.
I don't know. And the starting
there now.
As for the starting quarterback in Arizona, I mean, the starting quarterback is Kyler. I don't think that's going to be to start the season because from what I understand, he's still a ways out. He's probably not going to be medically cleared by week 1. But if he's healthy, it's going to be Kyler because there's nobody else. They don't have anybody else. Like he's the starting quarterback. So if he's healthy, he can go. But I do think that there's a scenario that if he suffers a significant setback, right, and where he can't come back into the middle of the season, I do think that there's a scenario where Arizona shelves him and says, let's put him on ice, man. We're going to get rid of him. You know what time it is. It's Caleb Williams time. And we're praying to God that the Texans suck so we can get the number 2 overall pick, because you know what we'd love to partner Caleb Williams with? That sexy wide receiver from Ohio State, Marvin Harrison Jr., just hit him with a nice 1-2 combination. We would love to do that and kick this reboot off with style.
Oh, Oh, hold on.
That's
what popped
right.
up on
With the
screen?
same sword, they gonna knight you. They gonna good night you. That's exactly right.
Hey, free Josh Rosen, baby.
That's
I don't
free.
know where he's at. Let
That's
me
free.
pull up his Wikipedia page. Hold on.
That's free game. While you pulling that up, that's free game to Kyler Murray. They just remember how you got.
Free agent. He's not anywhere. He's not rostered.
See,
He's a free agent.
There you go. You guys can pick him up on the free agency in Madden next month. You don't even have to give up a draft pick for him if you want to start your franchise that way. But I was talking with my brother about this. I think there's a scenario where Kyler gets shelved, that he's not going to be able to come back for half the season. Arizona knows they're not competing for anything. There's a new GM. There's a new head coach in Arizona. They want their guys. They got a chance to go get what everybody believes is going to be the next generational talent in the NFL. Maybe he will be, maybe he won't. I personally like Caleb Williams. I would love to see him in the horns. I don't think it's going to happen. And if they somehow can pull, a rabbit out of the hat and find a way to pair him with Marvin Harrison Jr., I think that's a very dangerous start to a reboot that I would be a fan of if I'm in Arizona. But as for Kyler, here, I posit this interesting scenario to you, and y'all should know I don't read the comments, so y'all can say whatever you want. And once this thing gets posted, I don't go back and read the comments, so you can say whatever you want to say about me. I'm gonna say this. I think that there's a scenario where, and my Rams fans are gonna be mad at me for this too. I think that there are two quarterbacks currently in the NFL that are available, but are not being talked about actively by their teams as that they're available. But they're for sale for the right price. And they may not be for sale at the beginning of the season, but as we get to the middle and back half of the season, those quarterbacks are for sale. I think Kyler Murray is one of those quarterbacks. I also think that Matthew Stafford is one of those quarterbacks. I think that there are two teams, and I'm not keen to move off of Matthew. I'm a fan. I'm not keen to move off of him, but I think that the Rams internally really like Stetson Bennett. I'm not saying I like Stetson Bennett. I'm just telling you what I think the front office and the coaching staff does. I think it would be a mistake, Marcus. I see your face. That's how I feel on the inside. But stay with me. Stay with me, okay? I think Stafford and Murray being available is going to force the hand of two teams, one that is just trying to find relevance, one that thinks that they might be able to crack a window open into a Super Bowl window. And I think that's the Minnesota Vikings and the Las Vegas Raiders. I think that Kyler Murray, even though I think it's a terrible match, I think that Vegas, because they got spurned by Aaron Rodgers this season, they don't want to be eaten out of the garbage pail again and getting leftover quarterbacks. And I know that's a shot at your guy, Jimmy G. Marcus. I apologize, but I don't think they want to go dumpster diving for quarterback. I don't think they're going to be in a position to get one of the better quarterbacks coming out.
Baby.
So I think that if Kyler was available on the market, I think they would move heaven and earth to put him in the silver and black. I think it's an ugly fit, but I think they would, as opposed to going after Matthew Stafford, who's clearly at the back end of their career. But I think Matthew Stafford would make the people in the purple and gold up north very excited, as Kevin O'Connell and Matthew Stafford became fast friends during that Super Bowl run. And I think you would have to say he is an upgrade, even though he's older. He's an upgrade over Kirk Cousins, and to partner him with Justin Jefferson in an offensive system that he's very, very familiar with, it could be enticing. I don't like the move, but I could see it realistically playing out. Marcus, you can shake your head all you want. I just have to put it out here for the record, so if it does happen, we can come back to this video.
Look, NFL's a weird place. All I'm saying is, look, Tom Brady, who the hell would have thought he ever would have became a Tampa Bay Buccaneer? You know what I mean? Just weird stuff happens. Like we were just talking about Josh Rosen a minute ago, right? Mm-hmm. Well, he was on the Cardinals for 1, maybe 2 years, then gets traded.
He was on the Cardinals for a year.
Yeah, a year. Gets traded for a second-round pick to the Dolphins, who when he started one.
And he was there for a year.
Yeah. Like
what's that Simpsons meme where he comes in, grabs the thing, puts his coat up, comes back and picks the coat up and walks out the door? That's Josh Rosen's career in a nutshell.
I wouldn't be myself if I didn't respond to this. So, okay. I don't disagree that Kyler Murray is being shopped around the league. I think we know that, not even simply because of the rumors that came out about draft night about them going to Atlanta. I don't think the Cardinals are done with that. They're not done kicking that. They're still going to figure out a way to get him to Atlanta. I think Atlanta 100% is interested in that.
Mhm.
When you look at who they have on the roster of the quarterback position, I love Taylor Heineke, but he's not Kyler Murray, and Desmond Ridder is absolutely
What are you talking about? He's
not
the future.
Kyler Murray. Not at all. So I think you have that. And I do think that we should still particularly keep an eye out on maybe Kyler being sent to Atlanta, because they're one of very few teams in the league that has the ability from a financial standpoint to absorb the contract that Kyler
Very
just
extravagant
signed.
contract.
Very extravagant. They're one of very few teams in the league that have the financial flexibility to do so. That's the first team.
Before you get to the second tier, I just want to ask you: do you think that the other team in that division might be also interested in Kyler? One located in Tampa.
I was going to say that as well. I also think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, when you look at their camp battle, is Baker Mayfield
and Kyle Trask.
Yeah,
I mean Kyle Trash.
I think we should also be paying attention to Kyler Murray being sent to Tampa. I think by the end of this season, if Kyler's not in Arizona, he's going to be in the NFC South, either in Tampa Bay or in Atlanta. As far as Matthew Stafford is concerned, I don't think he would be on the move, because I think, one, I understand the excitement about Stetson Bennett. I think if
I don't.
I understand the excitement from the standpoint of the very similar to Matthew Stafford as far as size, as far as ability, as far as limitations. Like, that is a player comp that, although it is lazy because they both went to the same school, that's only reason people are making it, it is one that makes sense to me. I think if you want to smoothly, if you're LA and you want to smoothly make that transition from Stafford to Bennett, the way to do that is to have Stafford still in the building so that you can do that. If you're absolutely just licking your chops and waiting for Stafford's first hiccup to get him out the door, it wouldn't make sense to, in my opinion, it wouldn't make sense to send him to Minnesota. Because
I'm not saying that it makes sense to send him to Minnesota. I'm saying Minnesota's the one that comes with the assets to get him.
Right, but if you so then you have one of two scenarios if we go there. Either Kirk and Matt are both in Minnesota, which would make no sense for Minnesota, or Kirk is in LA with Stetson Bennett, which would make no sense for LA because they just moved off of one vet. They're not going to move off of one vet to get a slightly less veteran. Like, do you know what I mean? So for me, if there is a team that would trade for Matt Stafford that doesn't have to worry about a quarterback to deal with, and it could also potentially give up something without being too far behind themselves, even though they are pretty behind, is unfortunately the team that we talked about at the top of the show. And that is the Washington Commanders, because the Commanders have been kicking the bush on a lot of veteran quarterbacks that have been thrown up in the trade talks over the past couple seasons, right? They were peaking on Russ. They were peaking on Derek Carr. They peaked in on Matt Ryan for a bit there. They obviously got Carson Wentz. Like, they have been prying around in the veteran QB market. And if the opportunity presents himself for them to bring Matthew Stafford here to DC, I do think that they would try to make that happen, because at the very least, he would buy them some time until they can find a legitimate guy, whether it's either through the draft or whether it's through free agency, to then take his place. So I don't disagree on necessarily the idea of these guys being moved. I would just alter the landing spots just a little bit, because I think, me personally, I think the Raiders are banking on Jimmy G not being that great. I think they want him to be good under Josh McDaniels, because maybe they can try to get some playoff magic in there, but the division's too tough for them to do that. I think they're banking on Jimmy being bad enough where they can pick in those middle pick, like in those teens, like those 10 to 20s, and find a QB in that range, because they're not going to be bad enough with Jimmy G unless the whole team is hurt to pick in the top 10 to get a top 10 guy. They're going to have to get a quarterback if they're looking to draft a quarterback in that 10 to 15 range. And that's the way to do it is with Jimmy G. I don't think they want to sacrifice that by bringing in Kyler Murray, because he has a history and it's not a good one.
Well, like I said, I think Raiders are a team to keep your eye on when it comes to when it comes to Kyler, but I think definitely keep an eye on them as their schedule as the league plays out, right? Like as the season plays out, keep your eye on where their record is, because I think you're right, Marcus. If they're sitting there in the middle, I don't think they'll stand in the middle this time like they did this last draft. I think they say the reboot starts now, and I'm talking we're gonna get Khalil Mack level jettison reboot from the Raiders. I talked to my brother about this today, and he hated it. But I was like, I see a scenario where I think Hunter Renfrow is getting moved by the trade deadline. I think he's gone. I think there's also
his roster spot's already in jeopardy. So.
Yeah, and I also think that there's a scenario where Devontae Adams is gone by the trade deadline, and if he's not gone by the trade deadline, he's gone by next year during the draft. I also think that if they are sitting smack dab in the middle and they have an ability to go and get a quarterback, right? Say that for some reason it's not the Texans and it's not the Cardinals that hold the number one spot, right? For some odd reason, it's some other team that nobody's, I don't know, pick who you want. It's somebody that we didn't expect. I think they would be willing to move considerable assets to get that, to move up and get in that space where they could do it. Or, even if they get Drake May, to be in position to draft a Drake May. And when I say considerable assets, I mean that they would hit that self-destruct button and move off of Mad Max. I could see a world where he's gone.
So here's one thing I will always commend the Raiders for doing, even though they always followed up terribly. And Doug knows this because we've talked about this. I don't like half rebuilds. Mm-hmm. The Raiders are not afraid to hit the self-destruct button all the way. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you. If they're going to blow it up, like they're going to blow it up. Like Devontae's gone, Mad Max is gone. Like they could maybe move Josh Jacobs. Like
I don't think Josh Jacobs is going to play another down in the Raiders uniform.
He's not, and I know the running back market. It's kind of wonky right now, mm-hmm. but there's still a team out there that would trade for Josh Jacobs. I think the team that would trade for him, and I think there's two teams that would trade for him, or at least be willing to talk to him about getting a deal and having conversations with Vegas about, hey, this guy doesn't want to play for you anymore. If you want to get anything for him, we'll give you this for it, and we'll make him happy. But the question is now, is he willing to cross his running back brethren in their solidarity movement? Because I think the two teams that would be the most interested, he's going to have to either undercut Austin Eckler or he's going to have to undercut Saquon Barkley. Those are the two teams that I think that he would be in. I think the Saints could make a call for him because Alvin Kamara hasn't been who he's supposed to be, and I know they got Jamal Williams.
Well, and he's still having legal trouble as well.
Right, and Jamal Williams is no Josh Jacobs. So I would say if there's a team that's going to maybe call for Josh Jacobs, it would be the New Orleans Saints. The only other team that I can think of off the top of my head right now that could maybe make a call about Josh Jacobs, just again to kind of kick the hay and see what's happening, is the Ravens. Because I think if you get a running back like Josh Jacobs, he's going to run anyway because it's who he is, but it takes a lot of pressure off of Lamar Jackson on the run game, but it also makes the running game much more lethal because if you guys remember, back before Robert Griffin III realized that he can't play football anymore, they did the Heisman package with Lamar, and they did it it was Lamar, RG3, and Mark Ingram. Mm-hmm. With what Tyler Huntley has done, they could make that same thing work with Lamar, Tyler Huntley, and Josh Jacobs, and it'd be even better.
I like Josh Jacobs in Baltimore. I like Saquon in Baltimore better.
That's fair. He's younger, so it makes sense.
Yeah, I just think for as dynamic as he is as a football player, I think it kind of fits with what Lamar wants to do, and I think it fits with what that team is trying to do. Just look at the receivers that they finally went and got this year, even though it's an older Odell. Like I think Odell, even at this age, like he embodies what a dynamic receiver should be. Granted, he's older, but I think we've seen flashes from Odell, right? Like it's still somewhere in there. And God, if his body could hold up for an entire season, did we kind of preserve some of that prime in the time capsule? And he's maybe got two really solid, amazing years to give us. God, I hope so. Just as a football fan, not as a Baltimore Ravens fan, lover, hater, whatever. Just as a football fan, I would love to see him get out there and do his thing one last time.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I also want to take and shout out my co-host Adrian for coming on the show today, and Marcus, man, shout out to you, man. One last time, man, please plug your show. Let the good folks know where they can find you, man.
You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at GTP Marcus. You can find the show on YouTube and Facebook. Give Us a Shot Network. Very excited for the show we've got on Friday on time. Major announcement. Stay tuned.
Yes, sir. And I have a few of those links down below in the description of this video. So whether you're live streaming on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook, go down below. Give my guy Marcus a follow. Also follow Adrian Soup Campbell. You can take a follow him on Twitter, man. He is lighting the world up. You're not on Instagram too much these days, right, Soup?
I'm not on Instagram. I'm not on Threads. You can find me on Twitter, or the artist formerly known as Twitter, now known as X. That's where you can find me.
For sure, man. And you guys, make sure you go ahead and smash that subscribe button. Comment below. Did you love the episode? Did you hate it? Man, we're going to take and get into it. Also, if you want to take and donate, help build the channel, still getting more equipment, spicing things up around here, you can go down below and donate as well. God bless you guys. Have an awesome night. I'm going to go ahead and hit y'all with like the livest, dopest outro intro you've ever heard in your life, and we'll catch you guys next week on the Touchdown with Doug Smith.
Touchdown with Doug Smith, celebrate, that's a new move. Heisman, 2 views, catch him on YouTube. NFL coverage, interviews, new news, who win, who lose, comedy, you choose. It's not about moolah. The QB's like Tua is missing in action. No L's on my shooter. Play it like Marino, it's a gamble like casino. Hungry for it, but you know we still gon' try to feed the people. Rivalries will lead the conference. Cowboys are the Eagles. Will Belichick be a threat? Better check. Tomlin on deck. Much respect to the vet. What you expect? Gotta tune in for the rest. Make sure to sub, like, check. At the best, bad boy, the sports podcast. For the threat across the north, east, south, in the west. Sitting back clueless, time to tune in. Now another sports center. It's a movement.